let's face it, big boys need some big toys. Let's get into it. What's good, everybody? My name is Valor, and I'm back. I know it's been a good bit of a hiatus, but, you know, life has gotten away from me with work and everything. But I've not gone anywhere. I've still been working on things. And, yeah, I'm showing off today the Sobek by Rraijjar. It is a 5+1 tube-fed shell-ejecting shotgun that has a few tricks up its sleeve. Starting off with the thing itself, its size. You can't get around the fact that this is a massive blaster, and it gets even longer with an additional part that I'll show off here in a moment. But yeah, like, this is huge. Like, even if I were gripping it more of, like, you know, like that, it is huge. This is just a CQR style grip I printed. But yeah, like, yeah. I say but yeah a lot, but this is a very large blaster. And it has to be because it takes these shells. These are Sobek specific. They are much larger than Spring Thunder shells, but that enables you to have 3 darts in a shell, or, you know, 6 half-lengths, as well as lots of other options. You can have partially cut down Mega. I like to still cut mine in half so it has a little bit of a barrel to it. 4-round rival shell, and the trick up its sleeve, it's a little bit kind of hard to see with the white balance, but this is a sniper shell, or, you know, single dart shell, which when paired up with this thing, this is the clip-in sniper barrel attachment. It is just standard 5/8. You clip it in the front, slide in, there you go. Clip those into the holes on the front, and now your blaster is even freaking longer, and you can use sniper shells and hit as hard as a caliber can, which I think is a nice little trick. And it's easy enough to just slide out the front. I believe that there are some clips to clip it to the top or even the side here, because there are tactical rails all over this thing. There's a nice long one on top with a nice little space for a cheek well. You've got your side rail for an optional shell caddy. And then you have your single dart match saver port, where you can just clip that single shell holder, and then, you know, if you're completely out, you have the one on the side of the blaster, and there you go, match saver. This is a very large blaster, as I've said before, but that does lead to a little bit of trouble with the way that the catch works. The Spring Thunder uses a weird pivoting trigger with a kind of a pusher bar that moves a sliding plate up and down. This just uses a Caliburn style sear, which means you have a nice snappy trigger pull, but the point of pivoting here, the point of leverage, is right about here. So it leads to a very heavy trigger pull. You can kind of get used to it, but in the firing footage that you'll see soon, you'll see that I swapped to my middle finger a couple times just so I have a little bit more strength to pull that. I believe he's actually worked on making that a little bit smoother since I built this thing, because this is just a beta unit. But yeah, as it is, this beta unit has a very heavy trigger pull, which you can get used to it. It might break itself in. I've not had much time to really break it in. But the amount that I've actually played with this, I've run at least 3 or 4 dozen shells through this already. But yeah, just look at this thing. I think it looks really nice. It is very, you know, squared off, which some people might not like, but it has a nice subtle motif of a crocodile, which makes sense because Sobek is an Egyptian god which had the head of crocodile and all that. And I decided to kind of carry with that kind of crocodile reptilian theme by going with like a nice neon green and this kind of teal-ish color, and I feel it looks quite nice. I know that crocodiles aren't really that color, but it goes with the feel. Moving on to the back, you've got your stock, and the spring rest is removable. You simply pull a pin, and there is a newer version of the spring rest where it's just a twist lock, like NERF barrel attachments. And you can pull out the full K26 spring. You can simply put the rest back in, and the pin goes in and it holds just fine with spring tension, which you can easily get into the spring, which can mean that some dirt can get into here. So, you know, just be mindful of that. But like with any Caliburn style platform, there's going to be crevices with like the sear and all that, so just something to keep in mind. But yeah, enough rambling. Let's get outside and we're gonna fire a little bit, and I'll show you how it performs and everything with the current configuration. They're gone. All right. What do you think of that firing footage? I think it's quite decent. Yeah, it hits elite to rival ranges depending on what you got in the shell, and then, you know, caliber and ranges and above with the sniper shell. But I believe that you could get a bit more out of this if things were tweaked a little bit more in the back. The thing with it being such a long draw is the plunger doesn't have enough time to speed up as it approaches, you know, the bolt and everything. And that means that it's not getting as much power to the short barrels that are the shells. So you're losing a bit of air at the end of the draw, because like, say like the first half of the plunger tube, it gets used while it's still speeding up. Well, you still have a little bit more speeding up to do at the end, and that leads to, you know, a little bit lost power. But it still performs quite well. I just think that a shorter draw version of this that can still use, you know, 5+1 with these shells, but, you know, shorter draw and everything, use like long shot springs, and that would make it even better. Apparently, he is also working on a triple sniper shell that uses, you know, has 3 barrels coming out the front as opposed to just the 1, as well as a special sort of alignment mechanism in the front of the chamber here to make sure that the shells are always aligned with the barrels, which I think is a really good idea. But, you know, it would help with the sort of size of this thing. Like, he is a 40k cosplayer, so you'd expect him to have big, you know, big weaponry. And that's another issue. You know, the bolt will scrape on the shell ramp in here. There's a little hard ramp right here that just knocks against the shells and kicks them out of the chamber. But that has already been fixed. He made a new version of the Sobek bolt that has a little more clearance around that notch just to reduce that rubbing sound, which a lot of people will hate. You can get around that just by sanding it. I didn't really sand it because I was too busy just putting this thing together, because it was a lot of putting it together, taking it apart and everything, just getting things lubed and getting it tuned correctly. But yeah, like, it's still a very fun blaster regardless, and the fact that someone took like the idea of the Spring Thunder and kind of just blew it up to make something even bigger, and it works slightly differently. It's not as mechanically complex as the Spring Thunder. It has much less moving parts. It's very similar in the construction to, say, a Firefly shotgun, which has the same sort of hard ramp just kicking the shells out of the chamber. And this is just one piece with a roller on it with some notches in the bolt itself. There is a bit of dead space in the bolt, but what are you going to do? It's similar to a caliburn in that way. I think that making a shorter draw version of this would be a good idea, as well as the sort of aspect of it being a very long blaster. I mean, you can see my forward arm is very extended, but he's already sort of mitigated that already with a new pump. It just replaces the existing one, and it has a bit of a hand grip farther back, and it kind of wraps around this part of the blaster here, so you can hold it a little more right about here and then pull it back right here, so you can have more barrel just sticking out the front, which is a little more comfortable for most people. Like this, your hand is very close to the kind of muzzle, but it's not really an issue considering this is a Nerf blaster. But yeah, there's always things to change with things. But for a beta unit, it's still quite good. And yes, I'll put a link down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment to Rraijjar's Instagram, where he posts about the Sobek, as well as anything else he's working on. I believe he's friends with Rraijjar, the maker of the kind of HPA bullpup blaster that I still really want to build. There'll also be a link in the description and pinned comment to my Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. Starting at $1 a month, you can help the channel out and get some nice little perks. As ever, my name's Valor. Thanks for watching.